Hello guys, I am here with Christian Petersen, the founder and CEO of Fantasy Flight Games. Christian, it is an absolute pleasure to be talking to you, as we do every year here at World, so thank you for taking the time to sit down and tell us and the people out there a little bit more about Fantasy Flight.
You're welcome, man.
We appreciate it.
Happy to do it.
I think the biggest thing, 20 years.
Yeah.
So you've been here 20 years in this space, checking it out, changing it, affecting it. What are the biggest changes that have happened in these past 20 years? You're like a unique voice on this.
Wow. I mean, a lot of things have changed. You know, when I first started the business, all of our communication was via fax. You know, first of all, I mean, it makes me feel super old, right?
Right.
So, like, yeah, I remember when we were first starting and we were, you know, barely making a living, and we would wait for the call of the fax machine, and we would run over there. Me and Todd would run over there and look at the wax paper kind of cracking out of the thing. And then, if we're lucky, it was not an ad, but it was a purchase order, and so we could actually eat. And that was very exciting. I try to save some of those, but those wax papers actually bleached over time, and
Wow.
you end up kind of coming up with a blank yellowish piece of paper. So technology has really changed. I'm sure that maybe what you're thinking about is more relating to games and the industry.
For sure, yeah.
And not so much the technology side, but the technology side really has influenced a lot on the creative side. Mm-hmm. How much easier it has been now to make games and make great looking product. The first couple of role playing games we did with the good old fashioned basically paste up, where nice. We actually sent them to a printer who do the paste up for us, but we more or less printed our product out of a laser printer, and we sent it to the book printer to print. That's back in the day when there's something called line screen, which are these little dots in your image mattered, because when you would take a paste up film, those little dots sometimes blend together to form an image, but if there are too many of them that oversaturate the ink. There's been a lot of technology changes, a lot of communications changes. You know, just dealing with email, with websites. We used to do our first little things. We called them rants. It was before blogs existed.
Wow.
We had this idea. I mean, Steve Jackson did it first, and we're like, yeah, we should every day we should put up some sort of a message about what we're doing in the company. And that later became a blog. We thought the word blog was silly. We thought rant was a much better.
You guys are the
but it was too angry or something.
You're the original bloggers in this industry, right?
Well, I say Steve Jackson take the credit for that, but we did it very early on. And the kind of how we interact with everyone, how we interact with our products, and how we interact with our production partners there's been a substantial change.
Yeah.
In terms of what people play, huge differences. When we first started, I first. You know, as you know, we did comic books first, and then, you know, being a gamer, as they didn't work out, started making games. Board games were almost non-existent at the time. You know, Avalon Hill had put out their last game, which I believe was Monsters Menace America. I don't know if you ever played that, but that was the last game that Avalon Hill put out in my memory anyway. And board games weren't really played. It was the way they're manufactured was different from they are today. The design philosophies are very different from what they are today, and board games inherently was kind of a rare beast. When you go into the game store, there'd be lots of miniatures games, card games in particular. Magic was of course big at the time, and a board game was something really unique. And so certainly on the basis of like not getting drowned in a sea of board games, which is a problem today, that was really a unique thing. It was kind of a unique little snowflake, you know, coming in and landing in the industry. So we got a little bit of traction back then. Of course, back then the industry was vastly smaller than it is today. Yeah. There's been so many things in games that would come later, and I'm talking about 1997 here, and then also culturally that would follow, which has really just been an incredible boon to the type of experiences that we love to play.
Yeah, well. So what has FFG particularly accomplished, you feel, in these past 20 years? You know, you've been leading this charge. You now have 2 decades worth of, accomplishment. What are you most proud of? What has your company done?
I think a couple of years ago I had a sort of similar question. I mean, we're proud of everything we do, you know. I'm proud of every product that comes out today. I'm proud of the way that we built this building. I'm proud of everybody who works here and is so dedicated. I think mostly for the product side, what we've done is always to try to be different, try to be serious, try to tell stories, and try to push an envelope. Where possible. We produce so many games today. Some people may ask us like, well, where are you pushing the envelope? But we think we push an envelope in many big things and small things every day. Whether it's art, whether it's how we try to produce rule sets, whether it's in terms of how things are manufactured or marketed, that we try to innovate and push and do the best we can everywhere. As you get to be a large organization, there are lots and lots of different repositories where you can try to be excellent. And trying to be excellent in every one of them is just a challenge, and it's remarkably difficult to just try to be there for everything, at all times. Yeah. But we've been trying really hard over the years. In terms of FFG, we there's a lot of the early products that if you go back and look, you're like, wow, you may not even know we made them, right? I know that we did some games a long time ago. We did the Dragon Ball Z board games. I don't know if you know we did that.
Nice.
They're not the best games we ever made, but we did them. We have employees come out here all suddenly that tell me, Chris, we did the Dragon Ball Z games. I'm like, yeah, we did. And we had no idea.
It was my first card game as well, Dragon Ball Z. Right?
This is the TCG. Yeah, So we did the small board games. So we've done a lot of stuff over the years. I think people, if you go back and look at our, I don't even know, gameography or whatever we call it, like library of product, I think a lot of people would be surprised at the diversity and exploration that we did. I think we found kind of a unique philosophy for how to do games that where it blended the kind of a design philosophy, which was this mix of, the American narrative, blended with the inspiration of these more elegant mechanics coming in from the European game side that sort of try to simplify difficult decisions and fun decisions, and where we try to add a graphic narrative and an actual storyline narrative, a game narrative to the game, where you felt that you had an experience, you told a story, that you lived some experience through your gameplay. And I think we found that kind of early last decade with games like Game of Thrones and Twilight Imperium, and then we Kevin Wilson came in and we did Arkham Horror, and we did the second edition at that time of Fury Dracula. We really kind of found out, there's something really to this. We really love this. This is really great, and we kind of found our feet. We were also able to go out and tell people that, hey, this Twilight Imperium game, we wanted to make it really great, but to make it really great, we got to charge $80 for it.
Yeah.
Okay, and at the time that was heresy. That's time I was like, oh my God, this horrible. It cannot be done. But we were basically told it's impossible. You'll fail. It can't be done. But we really couldn't make that game without that price. So we had to. But we took a chance, saying no. We believe that if people out there, if they love this and they love it well enough, that money isn't really necessarily the issue. It's as long as the value is the issue, not the money. Yeah. So we did that, and it was a big success. And I think that has paved the way for other publishers maybe to be brave in terms of like adding value over necessarily being concerned about the price. I mean, everyone's concerned about price. We are as well. But having the idea that value and what goes in and the value of the experience actually trumps that, and the quality of the components and the quality of sculpts and the quality of all that stuff being really important to the gamers. And in fact, for most gamers, myself included, that's more important than price.
Do you think that the value play, that pushing value as a primary piece of this industry, is one of the main things that FFG has accomplished? Kind of changing that behavior in consumers?
I definitely think that we were the first to try to we're the first ones to come out and say, hey, we think this matters and this could be done. And the marketplace agreed with us, and that of course has then allowed other people to follow and create amazing games. We have other publishers out there that have been able to make really cool games because that kind of freed them up to do it. So I think that has definitely been an accomplishment that we're proud of. Of course, we're proud of the fact that I think nowadays when people see a game, they can kind of say, well, it feels like an FFG style game. Cool. That means something. That means we somehow, through this mosaic of art and style and game mechanics and philosophy, that we've created a game that feels like an identity, and that we're proud of. Whether you like the identity or not, that's everybody says free to have their own opinions of games, of course. But the fact that we've been able to accomplish that has been really encouraging. Yeah.
Well, so you guys have recently merged with Asmodee. Mm-hmm. So how has that changed things for you?
Well, we merged with them about a year ago. a little over a year ago. One of the sort of the questions you can ask is, why did we do that? So let's answer that first before how has it changed.
Yeah.
So we've been in business for almost 20 years, and so we sort of found our sea legs, we found our product niche, and then we have to ask ourselves, what's the next step? And there are some dangers when companies get to that point, because one of the things you can think of is like, we're good at one thing, let's be good at something else. Let's go make computer games, or let's make party games. Let's do all this stuff that could potentially distract you from what you're very good at. But then for us, in order to grow, we didn't want to just try to create more and more and more, carpet bomb what we're really good at. So how do we kind of protect that design philosophy and that brand that is FFG, but still allow us as an organization to grow? One of the philosophies, we can create like family style games like Hey, That's My Fish, and we've done a number of those kind of different games. Really nice, great games. But when we would announce them, people would be like, boo, that's not an FFG game. And we're like, so we've established this brand that we're really proud of, but it's also in a way, it's like there's some other games we maybe want to make, or that we should make as a company to grow and to, make sure that we can we can grow our employees, that we can have a future. And so we were sort of at an impasse, like how do we deal with this? We're very successful, but do we then spin off some other companies? Do we dilute our bandwidth? Do we just say, no, we're just gonna be happy with where we are? Yeah. We're never happy where we are. In anything, we always want to improve it. We always want to do something a little bit better. So that wasn't really in our DNA. So with Asmodee, they are a great global publisher with lots of different brands and a lot of different synergies for us, particularly internationally. And there's a lot of things behind the scenes that happen in game companies, like warehouses and credits and accounting teams, and very, very important aspects of the company that no gamer will ever know, that can be maximized and that can be utilized in kind of a more broad scope way. So the Asmodee merger really made sense for us as it was a solution for our next step. Partly as it allows us to utilize those resources that we have and built in the United States to just logistically expand our business. But at the same time, it also allowed us to really protect FFG. So now we could say FFG now does not need to make family games or party games. We can really concentrate on doing even more, double down on the kind of games that we're really good at, and really chase those categories. So since then, we've been sort of like reformulating how are we going to make Fantasy Flight style games even better. How we're going to make new games in that philosophy. And so we've been able to take the whole design team that is FFG, and they have been protected, and saying you are going to be able to do the things that you're really good at. So while it may almost feel like that you're losing FFG in a way, but by having a merger with Asmodee, I think it's the polar opposite. It's the way to really make sure that FFG does not get distracted, as a business, and is able to really focus on what it does. Now, will there be some teams that once we're inside FFG that maybe work on some other games, family and card games? Yeah, there will, because they have some ideas and inspiration for that. But there are other publishing units inside the Asmodee group where that kind of creative outlet can then be fostered. So I'm really excited about that, and I think the stuff we're working on, I think you'll see more than ever. We have this awesome stuff in the pipeline. We just announced Star Wars Rebellion the other day, which we've been working on for a while. We have some things coming up the next couple of years that I think is just blows my mind. I hope it'll blow your mind.
That's
that's what we live for, yeah. So let's hope it will thrill and delight like everything we do. If we put something out that we're really proud of and it doesn't thrill and delight, we're sad pandas, right? That's even if it sells well, people don't like it, and that does not make us happy.
Great. Well, that's extremely exciting. That really does put a spin on it that I think is correct.
Okay. So anyway, 20 years we've done a lot of things. We've been able to, I think, expand the palette of colors in terms of like price points that people can participate in games with. Hopefully we've created a style of game that mixes narrative and imagery and game design that creates different game experiences. We're not afraid of creating different kinds of durations, small, quick games, competitive games, long, elaborate, huge, epic, competitive or collaborative games. And I think that I hope that I just remember me when I was a young gamer at 12, 13, 14. There were these companies that I really thought were really cool.
Yeah.
Because it's I love these games. Love Games Workshop because I have Warrior Knights and I play Warhammer and man, I would love to think that there are some 14-year-olds out there thinking, oh, Fantasy Flight is really cool because I really love this stuff. Then I think that's all of us that started FFG. We couldn't ask for more than that.
Well, let's talk about Star Wars, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Of all the people that I've seen throughout the years have essentially in this space have access to that license, FFG has just done such a tremendous job with it, just putting out so many different types of games and styles of games to explore this universe. And I always am curious, what is it about Star Wars for you as an individual that really made you fall in love with that universe?
Well, I think I was 12, maybe 11. And I lived in Denmark at the time, so I was never actually exposed to Star Wars: The New Hope, which back then was just Star Wars, and Star Wars Episode 4. Mysteriously enough, where are the 1, 2, and 3 at the time, right? And so I lived in Denmark, and the movies took about a year later to come over there, so I probably saw it just a year before all you other cool dudes.
Yeah.
But my dad took me to see Empire Strikes Back because he had heard from his American brothers that was really awesome and Star Wars was awesome, so we went to the cinema and saw that. And just so I can do it twice on camera, it blew this 12-year-old's mind. I mean, it was. I think what I like about Star Wars is the and Empire Strikes Back, right? Is that there was this hugeness to it. It was a sense you're following these heroic characters around, but that they were part of a greater world, that we're getting these glimpses into a universe that could exist somewhere, and it had this ambition. It had this hugeness to it. Everything was bigger than life. Death Stars and Star Destroyers that could swallow Star Destroyers, and giant tanks size of behemoth elephants crawling across the ice with your AT-ATs. That mix of a realized world of. And partly what made Empire Strikes Back so believable was that everything was not hunky-dory, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't this sense of the normal 3-act story. We discover what happens, the heroes figure out how to solve it, and they solve it. Mm-hmm. When you came into that, you're like, we kind of got thrown in the middle of it, and all this cool stuff happens, and the people are kind of discovering themselves, but they didn't solve it.
Yeah.
And so it became like this, wow, there's more to it, and it got your juices flowing. You're thinking about, what could happen? Who are all these people? Where's Dantooine? That, of course, came from the first movie.
Yeah.
It was just an incredible experience. I was a huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah. Well, tell us about Rebellion. You just announced this game.
We did.
What is it? What is it that makes this game special? There's Star Wars games aplenty. What is it about Rebellion that you're really most excited about?
It's the game we always wanted to play.
Yeah.
That's for every game we make, every big game we make, I think if it doesn't come down to me and Corey and sort of the few decision makers, is that if these are not the games we always wanted to play, then are we doing them for the right reason?
Yeah.
Because in the end, we have to be our own arbiters and judges of what's cool to put out, and it is the game I always wanted to play. So it's a big board game. It's fantastic. Corey designed it. It spans the whole original trilogy. It has space battles, land battles, resource management, characters. It has the whole thing, missions, and it has asymmetric gameplay, which is going to be important because Empire obviously is a vastly different construct than the Rebellion
Absolutely.
is. So it blends all that stuff. There was a computer game called Rebellion a while back, which also tried to achieve that, and so I think as an homage to that, we've used that title, and it certainly tries to achieve some of the same objectives where you are the Rebellion, you're hiding from the Empire, you're trying to build up characters and karma and political influence across the galaxy to hopefully create like this home run, throw the Emperor in a pit or whatever, and to actually win the game. And I think we've achieved it. It's just gorgeous. It's a big board game. I think people will say, "Oh, it's a Fantasy Flight style Star Wars board game," and if they do, great. That's what we aim to achieve.
Excellent.
So.
Well, how's the Star Wars environment changed in 20 years? So you were pre-prequels, and now you've been through the whole thing, and we're approaching episode 7, and it's a really exciting time for this game, for this universe.
Right.
Tell me about the evolution of Star Wars in the span of time that you've been here.
Well, in the span of gaming?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you're a small game company, at least for my generation, and you get to do cool stuff, and when your first game is Twilight Imperium, clearly you have an interest in such things, right? And so if somebody if future Chris was to tell 1998 Chris that, hey, guess what? In about 10 years you're going to get Star Wars. Hang in there, I would probably have felt maybe less gray hair, in terms of getting to that point. Yeah, I mean, at the time, there's been wonderful Star Wars games at the time, the West End games had Star Wars for a while. There's a role-playing game, I played that, One of the employees that have been here longest, Brian Schomburg, came from West End Games, and where he worked on the role-playing line. Then there was Decipher had the card game, and so we kind of grew up in as one of those companies who didn't have Star Wars, and we was like, wow, if we could have Star Wars someday, we could do some cool stuff. Yeah. So back in 2008, Steve Horvath, who's our VP of marketing and communications here, he came from Sabretooth Games, and they'd had some contact with Lucasfilm, and Steve was able to help me. Together, we initiated some discussions with them. At the time, Hasbro/Wizards of the Coast still had the Star Wars license, and they were doing some neat games. They had the pre-painted miniatures game, they had a role-playing game, they had a card game, and I think that was it. But I think at the time they sort of felt that Magic was rebounding. Maybe there was a distraction. We don't really know, but they decided to not renew. And so we're like, wow, this is our time. And we went in and tried to get the license. So we couldn't get board games at the time because it was held by Hasbro. Still is held by Hasbro. But we're able to get quite a few categories. We had to do we had to do a bunch of footwork in order for us to basically pay the license fee or the advance license fee at the time. Yeah. That was not a small chunk of change for us at the time. I'm not going to tell you how much, but it was a lot. It was a lot.
Sure.
But we managed to do that, and so then the idea for us was of course we tried to apply our philosophy to Star Wars like any other game, and I think one of the things that we provide licensed games is that we don't treat them like a licensed game. What's the pit trap with a licensed game? Well, the trap for a licensed game, pit trap or other trap, Endor trap, is that when you take a license, it is typically expensive. Okay, it costs more money than if I invented it myself.
Yeah.
So where does that money come from? Does it come from the game development and the artwork? That often is yes. That is an often. It's like we have this much money to develop for a game, so if I have to pay money to a licensor, I have now half or whatever the amount of money to develop that game.
Right.
So I have to put it on a game that I already own, or I have to do something quick or whatever. And so you end up with that trap of putting out licensed games, which typically aren't really all that great.
Yeah.
So if you look at even through history, computer games or any type of game, a lot of them are pasted on themes, or they are games that really weren't that good. And that's a real shame, right? Because obviously for the people who love a license and for the licensor, they want this great product for their property. And so I think there was a time where people they would basically avoid buying licensed games because it felt like they would, if you really wanted the game experience and not just something, like if I knew my grandson likes Star Wars, I'll buy any box with Star Wars on it and give it to him at Christmas. That's how they were moving, right? They were moving it by association as opposed to by product. Mm-hmm. But our philosophy was always like game first, we have to have a great experience with our game because not only are we delivering a product with a license on it, we're also putting our logo on it, and we want people to associate that with cool things. Like when I was a 14-year-old, I like this company because they do cool games. Yeah. So we had try. I mean, not everybody may agree that, in our decisions and choices, what's fun and what's not fun, and what's long or too short or whatever. But we put a lot of effort into the games, and so we take basically that license fee out of our profit because we believe it's the right thing to do. Then maybe by doing that, maybe we're rewarded with selling even more than we otherwise would have, and then maybe come back to us, or maybe not. But it's a risk we take, and that's always been our philosophy, and I stand by that to this day. And so a lot of licensed games out there that really stand by, and are proud of. Have we had our games where we felt that we could have done a better job, or we kind of fell off that bandwagon a little bit, like Dragon Ball Z board games? Yes, I mean that we have been there as well. We have not always succeeded, and so we hope to learn from those lessons, and to do better.
Well, Armada seems a reasonable place to go from here, since your name is on that box, and it
Armada.
is a Star Wars licensed game.
Right.
The last round is currently going on at Worlds.
I was excited. I was just over there looking at it.
Actually, as you were coming over, you kind of got sidetracked and were staring at the game. What was it like to get back in the designer's seat on that thing?
It was good. It was fun. I don't want to take that entire credit though, because I think James Niffen is really takes as much or more of the design credit on that. He did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
We kind of split game design into 3 different groups. That group is basically the development phase 1, 2, 3, and there's a couple of phases that some people are better at than others. Number 1 is kind of the general principle, those key first ideas, the sense of how the game hangs together, how it plays, like that little ruler that sort of snaps together, and where we try to create a simple simulation of inertia. And movement and restrictions. That was one of my original ideas. That and the idea of having to have fighters and how the dice mechanic worked, which was later improved by James. But some of those basic ideas were mine. Some of the turn structure. Then there's stage 2 of a game, which is like, all right, now we're going to take these things and we're really going to beat them up, and we're going to add abilities to them, and we're going to refine the abilities, and we're going to cut and cut and cut until we arrive at something that's clean. And then there's stage 3, which is take all that stuff and really now look at it very carefully with making the rules, writing the rules, making sure everything comes together and is clean, and that other people can play it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm actually personally best at 1 and 3, whereas number 2, I've always had help, or not always, but I love collaboration in number 2, right? Because I'm one of the guys that when I have to create a deck of ability cards, like 10 ability cards or 50 ability cards, or how many it is, I do like 3 of them, and I want everyone to be a masterpiece, right? So I just simply agonize over all these abilities, and so I like completely drain myself out after making 20 of them. But there are other people out there. One of the best in the world is like Eric Lang. They're so good at coming up with these abilities that are not only work, but they're actually really interesting, and the way they work together. There's an abstraction of layers of how they work together, and it's just beautiful. I mean, you see in the LCGs that sometimes you look at a card, you think, this card seems to be okay. Yeah. And then also you realize, oh my God, when I actually put this together, there seems to be this almost like hand of thought that sort of goes through these abilities, and that's terrific. I'm not very good at that. I'm more good at the concept stage, coming up with the core ideas and coming up with how it all hangs together and the general experience you're getting.
Yeah.
But then in terms of that number 2 stage development, I would say James helped me with 1 and did basically, and so it took it from there. And some of our great producers are also very helpful in guiding us all through stage 3 of that development. But it was fun to come in. I mean, it was one of those games I always wanted to do. I always wanted to have a game where I flew around with Star Destroyers, on a table. And oh my God, if I could, put in a little bit of idea and a little bit of thought into that, then I could rest in peace.
Well, I've got to ask you, do you like long games?
I love long games.
It seems like that's a theme
Absolutely.
that I've gotten from you over and over, is that any name that or any game that your name is on, it's usually just a big epic kind of thing. So where does that come from?
So I've also made some short games, so it is possible for me to do it, but I do gravitate towards trying to create this kind of epic experience. I really want there to have this sense of I did something huge, something big, something epic, something narrative, and the type of games where you walk away having that sensation is pretty difficult. I've never been able to sort of crack it if you have play for half an hour or 45 minutes and you sort of walk away and sort of felt that was a really big deal. Partly is it investment, but partly is it over when some time goes by as you are building your empire, or as you're maneuvering your fleet, or as you're growing, as your plan is unfolding, more of yourself is vested into it, and you're able to sort of get more in once those layers of the onions start peeling away, you really get into the game, and once you walk away from it, then you sort of felt you had an experience, as opposed to playing a game. Maybe you felt like you had more of a story.
Yeah.
And that is probably why I gravitate more towards longer games. I don't have any problem with longer games. I think they get a unnecessarily bad rap. Not these days. They used to be when I grew up. Most of the games, if you pick up an Avalon Hill game off the shelf and you'd play it, man, that'd be vastly longer than anything that we do today. Yeah. But I still love that. I still will go home and I'll pull out War and Peace or something and sit and if I can't find anybody to play with, I'll just sit there and play around with the little chits and wish I did.
Fantastic.
But I think there is a limitation. I think you should try, for a long game, it'd be nice to have a game, at least even for our perspective, that's long. You should try to be able to finish it in a long evening. Once you get into the games where that literally takes multiple weeks or whatever to finish, that's probably not going to work, unless it's a game where that's actually built into the genetics, like a game like Imperial Assault, where you can sit down, you can play a mission and feel like that your character's advanced. You can pack it all up and begin where you started last week. That is almost like more of a role-playing kind of experience. That's fine, that's great. But in terms of feeling that you accomplished something and you got through an arc or a game, really it should be able to be accomplished within a long evening.
Nice.
So.
Well, let's talk about LCGs a little bit.
All right.
This is a category that you guys have blown open, essentially created.
Thank you.
And you hit us with a 2017 L5R announcement,
dun, dun.
more or less out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that real quick. This is a classic game. I mean, this has a fan base that is very dedicated to this universe. What was the thinking? What was the process for acquiring L5R? Why did you do it? So good. That's a good question. I mean, it's a long process. To say that John Z, who owns the owner of Alderac Entertainment Group, AEG, who is of course the founder and torchbearer of L5R for as long as I remember. It was L5R was there before I was. It precedes 20 years. Or maybe it started just around the same time. It precedes Twilight Imperium anyway, which was my first entry into the space. It's just a fantastic property. It's just amazing. We love it. We've always thought throughout the years, man, we love fantasy Japan, like a Japan with monsters and sorcery. Maybe we should make that. Maybe not, because there's a really great one already. So that's why would we do that? So we never did. And then we had the opportunity to talk to John, and I think it really fit in with his plans and also where the game is at now. It's just done such a great job with it over so many years, but we felt maybe we have a vision and some tool sets and some resources. Remember when I talked about doubling down FFG and really being able to do more and concentrate on things that really feel like FFG could really succeed with? That's a perfect example. Yeah. So that we could take that on as one of our key. We have a few key IP worlds that we like to focus our proprietary development with. We have Android and Twilight Imperium and Arkham Horror and the Runebound Terranoth universe, and being able to add a world such as L5R to that is just an honor, and it's very exciting. And so when there was the chance financially, with enough momentum and at the right time for John, and the right time for us to really have that, now that we've done the
merger, and we now had the plan, and we were ready to invest in that plan. It was just the perfect time. And so we're just so excited to be able to do it. But John also wanted to make sure that he was able to give some news to the existing fan base. Our approach is a little more secretive. We like to delight and surprise and do it when we have something to show. And so typically, us saying, guess what, we're having a game coming out 2 years from now or whatever is a little weird for us.
Yeah.
But we also understood, for John's perspective, that he wanted to make sure that the fan base knew that this was not a property that was going to be abandoned by him, but that he was trying to do something great for vis-a-vis our conversations with us. And so that's why you saw that announcement, and I think the L5R fans deserve to understand that that's what's going on, and that we are really humbled and excited to interface with all of you guys.
Great. Well, so I feel like it happened. You have Twilight Imperium releases, and it's the value-based board game, essentially, that you kind of crack open, and then you see a lot of other people start to kind of enter that space.
Yep.
We've seen the same thing for LCGs now.
Right.
You crack that space open, and now a lot of card games are going to this non-collectible model. How does that make you feel as kind of what seems to be now more or less a trendsetter in the industry? And how do you compete? How do you stay ahead of the curve here?
I don't know how to stay ahead other than just try to do things. That's just what we try to do. We just try to do things that we think feel right, that fit with what players want. We don't think there's any area, collectible, non-collectible, themes or prices that are kind of sacred cows. We think if there's a really great area that we can put something cool out for, something that would excite us and delight us, then we hope there's a customer for it. And of course, once we put it out, I hope we have shown that we are really persistently, doggedly, will try to pursue it and support it and delight and enthuse a fan base for as long as at all possible.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been trying to do. So what's the next thing? I can't tell you.
Well, this is actually really interesting to me because you seem to be able to do both, especially in the board game space.
Yep.
You've got, every time we talk to you, you talk about digital integration and how you're really one of the more embracing companies in the industry for pushing towards technology in the future of what board games might look like and become. At the same time, you're reprinting all these old classic board games and giving that to the communities as well. So what do you think the future of board games ultimately is? Is it a combination? Do you continue kind of that strategy of pursuing the future but also restoring these old classic board games?
Well, I just don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think that some of these old classic board games that we try to bring back, and that alone is kind of a science, but we think there are great games that have great experiences that people love, that we want to bring back, and so people could re-experience them.
Yeah.
Then from time to time, some of those games we're bringing back, it's a little bit like watching a movie you thought was really awesome, and then you watch it again, you're like, I don't know. Like The Last Starfighter, as an example, it was to me, I love that movie, and I saw it again, I'm like, oh. So some of these games, for good or for ill, and other people may disagree with us, we look at it, we say that's something. There's a reason it's not in print anymore, and it didn't make it. It wasn't perennial, but it was great. So how do we bring it back, and how do we try to upgrade graphically or mechanically or whatever some of the features of that game to give it another chance of life?
Yeah.
We've actually. And we get some criticism when we change something, because obviously you have your people who, who felt that any change to their childhood or whatever is a real problem. I get that, but at the same time we also have to really try to do a good job. When we've done some games that we've done again and didn't change much at all, they've actually not succeeded at all, and so we kind of have to say, well, but in this one, we even though our fingers itched to change a few things, we just said no, that's not, because people love this, and it is fun. So, but they didn't succeed. So we have to go in and have to try to put a spin on it that we think will make the game succeed from a new generation, and all we can do is put our judgment onto what we think that is, and then other people may disagree, particularly people that were involved in the first edition. But those are not games that have, traditionally anyway, or for now, or we're not putting apps that somehow integrate with the game and push the game forward. But they're still great experiences. Saying that like games that has digital augmentation somehow pushes out other game categories, I don't think that's any more true than like a collaborative game pushing out a competitive game.
Yeah.
They're just different experiences and different ways to get that simulation of doing a fun fun kind of game experience, whether you're playing a farmer, a soldier, an explorer, whatever you're doing, in the context of a game.
Yeah.
But we are very, very happy with the result of XCOM, for example, which is our first board game we put out with a digital app. That has done extremely well. It's one of our best-selling games out of last year, which is pretty great when you think about we had Armada come out and Imperial Assault came out just at the very end of last year. So very excited about that. And I absolutely guarantee you that we have not only do we feel that experience was amazing, but we have doubled down and we are doing some really cool stuff in that space right now. So in the next 6 months or so, you will see some really fun announcements from us. I'm really excited to show people. I hope for the third time today that we can go. Right, when people see this stuff, there will be people out there who don't like the idea that you need this electronic with your game. That's fine. There are people who don't like collaborative games. There are people who don't like two-player games.
Yeah.
It's okay. We don't have to have every single game does not have to appeal to every single group of players. I think a lot of people, when they get disappointed of a game, is mainly because it could be different reasons, but I think largely it's because I really wanted this game to be for me.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be for those guys, and now I'm mad, right?
Yeah.
And that's fair enough. But I think we can be maybe a little more inclusive of plurality of different experiences.
Yeah.
Certainly, we are here, and we think that's something that's relevant to the market.
Well, we've spent a lot of time on licenses, and I want to talk about Android. This is just a fascinating universe. So this is your guys, really your creation.
Right.
You have control of this thing.
Right.
You've got apparently a lore book of some kind on the way. You've got an RPG, some licensed stuff going on. How does it feel to develop that alongside these things like Star Wars and Middle Earth and these just well-known things? Do you look at Android and think to yourself, we can make this just as great and as epic and as well-known as these other universes?
We certainly hope we can. I mean, it will take a lifetime maybe, but. We have these various worlds that we build and we contribute content to. Android is really a popular one of them.
Yeah.
It's been a very interesting story with that. The seeds of that, and I think to me the person who was the person to first breathe life into that property was Kevin Wilson with the Android board game. He was a guy who was inspired by these hard science fiction writers. Your Heinlein and your I'm forgetting Asimov, and all these guys, and really put together this really interesting world that wasn't just interesting. Like we could play games in it, but it had this interesting philosophy of what is life, where's the whole idea of androids, replicants, and all these things, and it felt so real and so complex and so new, even though it was in the kind of in a dress of what we knew, a cyberpunk kind of. Emotion or visual to it, that it was just exciting, and that we were of course able to perpetuate that with a few more games, just like we do with our other properties. And then we were really able to get a visual grip on it and kind of a style grip on it that kind of taste for it with Netrunner, of course, is what you do. So that's something that we very much are aware of and we're very proud of. And you mentioned the World Book. I actually have the World Book right here, and we're very excited about this.
Look at that thing.
So this thing is, I think it's like almost 300 pages, 274 pages, and it's not a game. It has no game in it. It is a very comprehensive, super exciting.
Oh my goodness!
Just this written document that highlights all these different areas of the universe. So I'm happy to make you guys, if you guys want, you guys can take some pictures of this later. So if you want to put in some inserts into this,
I think maybe we'll do that. Yeah.
So why did we do this? This was probably one of the more expensive projects we've ever gone into, and frankly, we don't think we'll probably ever make our money back on this book. But we wanted to have this for Android, and we'll actually be doing this for some of our other IPs that we own, at FFG, to really not only educate the fans and people interested in what this property is, but really kind of coalesce it for ourselves. And so we have a new employee that comes in and starts that doesn't know anything about Android. Where can they start? Well, here we go. This is the World Book. This is kind of the genetic core. Not only information, but visually, emotionally, so and in a book, form. And so we're very proud of that, and we hope you'll check it out.
Yeah.
If you want to play a role-playing game in here, we don't have any role-playing games. You mentioned an RPG. We don't have any RPGs currently planned. That's not to say we can't do that, but certainly this could be used as a source book for any role-play system, and you could go nuts. So very excited about that, and hopefully you'll
plan to continue. I'm sure to expand that universe. That's definitely on the agenda, as it were.
We have more products, in the future. That's going to be set in the Android universe. So I mean, funny enough, because we actually put this game out. I forget when it came out, quite a long time ago. But that was before like a whole phone ecosystem was called Android 2. So now, if you're looking for an Android game online, you get a lot of hits. So it's funny how it has kind of lived side by side with the phone phenomenon.
Yeah. Well, let's finish this.
So every Android user should buy the Android World Book.
We've got to know the source. Let's finish this up just talking about the future of gaming a little bit. Particularly, so starting off, again, the retrospective kind of 20 years is, I think, a big benchmark for you and for the company, and just for gaming in general. What problems is the industry currently facing? Challenges? What would you say on that? Or there's none? Everything is great.
No, there's always challenges. There's always challenges. I think the next problem to solve for the industry is how to reconcile the third space. Where do you meet people to play games with? First, we have to come up with we also have to agree with the logic that, at least in the current age, a software game is not a mutually exclusive entertainment experience from the physical games that we make. Most people that I know play software games alongside physical games. So this whole idea of software games eradicating physical games is something that I've grown up over 20 years. People going, oh, wait a minute. Didn't board games die? Back in the 80s with Atari and all these things, and that is just not happening. Some of our most avid fans are computer game programmers who just love to play these things. So, having said that, having that kind of as a basis as a point of reference is that software games have these built-in inherent networks to find players. You go player finders and online communities, Facebook, all these places to find players. Physical games actually need real people in the same room as you to create that experience that makes it so different and special and memorable from a software experience. So how to do that? I think that the unsung heroes in this are the third places, the retail shops, the conventions, and coffee houses or whatever that foster communities and get people together. Fortunately, I think we're seeing huge growth in that. The conventions are growing. We have our beautiful, amazing, awesome, very proud of World Championship right here in our very backyard. And it's just super exciting to see all these people. You guys are here, right? Yeah. And you're seeing, hopefully people are enjoying themselves. Are you enjoying yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Right,
absolutely.
Yeah. That third space, perpetuating that third space is going to be the next major, I think, obstacle for us to get the word out there. Yeah. All of the videos and all the means of communication to get excitement, that's great, but it has to be based on actually people having the experience. You could be excited about playing a card game by watching Will Wheaton's Tabletop, but if you don't have it to play with, it's only going to be pretty thin.
Yeah.
So and that's why we're really, really into supporting what we call the friendly local game store, or any type of hybrid organization similar to that on our convention that creates a third space, a physical social community network fostering place. Humans want to be with humans, and they want to have fun experiences and get a more meaningful life out of interaction with people, particularly in the context of play and games and simulation experiences.
Yeah.
And how to expand, how to grow that. If we can't grow that, then I think we'll reach a limit to the upside that we have in this fantastic experience of games, of physical games. And so we are constantly trying to figure out how can we help that. How can we create experiences for players when they go into places like our game center here, which is a model. This is a thing that we built here to try to figure out how would we do it. If we were to play a space that was really cool for players. You guys have your great story yourselves. These places grow our communities, and so trying to encourage that and to perpetuate that through the world is going to be a challenge because, of course, it's very tempting to only just sell stuff online out of your garage, or just discount a price to just move it out the door, via a package via UPS. To us, it's more than that. That's only like one part of it. That's the battery that generates the experience. You got to plug it into something, and if you don't have both, then the experience stops. Then you have a box and shrink wrap, or maybe you open them up and look through the components, and you thought, this is really fun. I hope I can play I hope I can play this someday. We want you to play it, right? I mean, if you can't play it, then in the end, why are we here? That's a big experience and challenge for us to try to solve.
Well, it does feel like there's a tension now. There's kind of the old paradigm that we all grew up with, and then there's kind of these hints at the new paradigm at the game center and elsewhere. So any ideas or guesses as to how this landscape might change to better accommodate the growth that we're looking for in the next 5 to 10 years?
No.
A puzzle to be solved.
It's a puzzle to be solved, and it doesn't feel like my puzzle to solve. Yeah. It feels like that there are people who have visions and talent and business plans. Hopefully we can provide encouragement and facilitate that kind of behavior in the marketplace by how we interact with the world. But I think we need some entrepreneurs out there and some investment out there that I think is going to be well worth it. But if you can create those communities, but that's somebody else's puzzle to solve. But I hope somebody does.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Truly appreciate taking the time to talk to us. And I always just like to give you the chance to, is there anything you'd like to say that we didn't cover here, or that's just, you just really want to get out to the people?
Yeah, you know what? I'm just so happy that to have been carried here by, players over the years. So thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for giving me the resources to try again and again, and to get up when we stumble. And to remember that the people that are here at FFG are so passionate, they're so excited, and they really feel for these games, and to remember online, in person, to be civil, and let's all play these games together and let's be positive. So,
great. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Truly appreciate the time.
You bet.
This has been Christian Petersen, founder and CEO of Fantasy Flight Games. Thank you guys so much for watching, and check them out if you don't already know, fantasyflightgames.com.
Woo!
We'll see you later.